I'm Eric Tangradi, and I'm in the BOOclub.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, featuring a Senators fan and a Leafs fan. We're here to talk about your two favorite teams, the rest of the NHL, local hockey, hockey all around the world, and to bring back memories from your favorite hockey teams and players. If you love the Leafs, Sens, B-Sens, NHL, or any other hockey, including the late Belleville Bulls, you are going to want to tune into our podcast. The gloves are off, the buckets are spinning, let's get the chirps flying. Welcome to the BOOclub!
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast. I'm Flem, and we got Brokey over there with the Ottawa hat. How's it going, everybody? We're glad everyone tuned in today. Guys, we have a huge episode today. We have former Belleville Bull, Pittsburgh Penguin, Winnipeg Jets, Eric Tangradi coming on the show to talk about his hockey career. Brokey and I had a ton of fun chatting with him a couple days ago, so give us a few minutes here, maybe 5 minutes, and we'll get to the Tangradi interview. And guys, I'm telling you, it's really a great interview with a great guy. But this episode is sponsored today by Brad Warner, real estate agent with Royal LePage Pro Alliance Realty. Guys, let's get to that time of year. Come springtime, a lot of houses usually go on the market. If you're looking to buy or sell in the Belleville area, get in touch with Brad Warner. He's available on Instagram and Facebook. And if you're looking for a realtor that's trustworthy, reliable, and knowledgeable about the area, I'm telling you, Brad is the perfect choice for you guys. So if whatever you're looking for, if you're looking to buy, you're looking to sell, maybe you're looking to, some questions about some renovations and, maybe how that can help you sell, give Brad Warner a call. He's truly the best realtor around, and he's a proud partner of Pay It Forward Sports and BOOclub Sports, and a partner of this episode.
Get Warner in your corner. Simple
Absolutely.
as that, right, guys? Warner's a great guy. He's a big partner with us, so this is his first episode. He gets to sponsor with us, so thanks for Brad. He's doing an awesome job, and I know the housing market, for anybody that's paid attention, pretty much everybody, has been insane the last 7 years, especially the last 2 or 3, right?
Yep.
So I've been looking a little bit myself. So the houses are going up, guys. They're starting to because it's springtime. So if you're looking to buy, sell, or even rent, I think get Warner in your corner.
Absolutely. Yep. So we got tons of stuff going on for Pay It Forward Sports. Brokey, do you want to touch on that before we get into Tangradi here?
Yeah, well, just as far as Tangradi goes, I mean, this is an awesome episode, guys. My favorite part of it is the World Juniors. But before we get to that, we do have some stuff. So Pay It Forward Sports, we ran our 3-on-3 All-Star Championship last weekend, and it was a ton of fun. We had a rec division winner. We had a competitive winner. I think everybody had a blast. Everybody I've talked to after the event said, "Oh, that was so much fun." We had some, everybody got pizza and a free beer, and everybody got free entry. I'm not sure everybody did it, but most guys did into the rapid fire shot. So the winner of that won $100. There was a secondary prize, and there was a third prize as well. And I just think all in all, guys are over the COVID hump, and everybody felt comfortable, and everybody had a ton of fun, including us. I know it was great to see everybody again and meet new faces too, right? But having said that, we have our next tournament we're already getting ready for in less than 2 weeks. It's the Kings of 4-on-4 Championship. This is a big tournament, guys. The winning team wins a trip to Las Vegas, or they can take a travel credit. So this is big. There will also be Blue Jays tickets for your entire team drawn for one random team. So if you entered, even if you finish last place, you have the same odds as the championship team to win the Blue Jays tickets. And there's more prizes as well. We know that sometimes running a team, being the captain, the GM, whatever you want to call it, we call it captains, is a little bit tough collecting money off guys, organizing guys. So there's a captain's draw. So one captain from one of the teams is going to win $200. Simple as that. So it's pretty easy. We're going to have a captain's draw, and there's going to be more prizes, right, Plum?
Yep, absolutely. So the captain draw is a big one for me. I mean, Brokey said the GM thing. Most GMs like to give it out, kind of like Kyle Dubas, but we'll reward the captains here. And then we got another trip going on too. It's April 16th. We're taking a bus trip up the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast to see the Leafs versus the Senators. Tickets start at $210 a person. Spaces are very limited for that. So if you want to come on a bus trip with Brokey and I and the BOOclub, get in touch with us, and we're going to go have a great night in Ottawa, April 16th. Watch the Leafs pound on the Senators.
Well, it will be interesting. The Leafs probably are the massive favorite in that one, especially with Thomas Chabot gone now, but we'll see if Ottawa can slide Sanderson in the lineup, and it'll be interesting. I mean, there was been a couple trades from both teams. We're not going to get to that yet. We'll let you guys have the Tangradi interview first, and maybe we'll talk a bit about that afterwards. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time, guys. It's my third time doing this. And so far, with the Leafs always being the favorite, we're 1-1. So you never know what's going to happen here. It could be a little bit of a fun atmosphere on the way home for you Leaf fans. Or I've seen it before where everyone's heads down and they're not. Just kidding, guys. It's always a fun time. I know some guys sleep on the way home because it's a little late, but no, we always have a blast with it. We were even going to try and do some prizes on the bus, some small prizes for during the game and stuff. So we got a couple things up our sleeve, but it is going to be a lot of fun. I've had a lot of guys that went on the first one or even the second one, and they're already trying to come back because they had so much fun. And obviously it's great to go back to an arena again. I mean, with COVID, a lot of people, well, everyone hasn't probably missed it, right? So, I mean, some guys have been back, but most people haven't. So I know they're excited. So tickets are going fast, guys. So if you want some tickets, get a hold of us. And those prices, they include all the taxes, all the fees, your bus, and your ticket, right? So that's it. That's the total price. And you can do that via e-transfer. So if you're hearing this, check the link. You can send us a Facebook message or an email and get your tickets because they're going fast, guys.
Yeah, for sure. So that's going to be tons of fun. So here we go, guys. We're going to get into our interview with Belleville Bulls captain, Eric Tangradi. Eric had 12-year pro hockey career and has some hilarious stories from his time along the way. So here we go, guys. We won't make you wait anymore. Here's our interview with Eric Tangradi. All right, guys. This man arrived in Belleville in the 2006-2007 season, would go on to be on three of the most memorable teams in Belleville Bulls history. In his second year, he would lead the team to a Memorial Cup berth. In his third year, he'd go on to be team captain, put up 88 points in 55 games, along with receiving the honor of playing for his country in the World Junior Hockey Championship. He would go on to be drafted by the Anaheim Ducks in the second round of the NHL entry draft and play 150 NHL games and had an amazing 12-year pro hockey career. Ladies and gentlemen, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by way of Belleville, Ontario, Eric Tangradi. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, great intro. Loved it.
Perfect. Thanks, bud.
So well, thanks for coming on, buddy. We got another Belleville Bull. I think you're our third or fourth captain, Flem?
Yeah.
So
getting up there.
Thanks. We appreciate you coming on today, and I'm sure we have lots to get into. But we might as well get into coming to Belleville. How did that all come up? Because obviously from Philly and whatnot, usually most guys who end up playing on the Bulls are living in Ontario, right, and play their minor hockey. So how did that all come up?
Yeah, it was an interesting ride to kind of how my career path found its way. And what I tell people is I feel like everything had always happened for the right reason for me every single step of the way. So it kind of starts with my 16-year-old hockey season in Philadelphia. I tried out for the 18 and under team, and I got cut. And for me in Philadelphia at that time at 16, I was one of the best players in the area to go try out for the Junior Flyers 18 and under team, because at that time playing above your age group was like the most important thing in the world. It's not like Ontario where the best 16-year-olds just all play each other. In Philadelphia, if you're the best player at 16, well, you need to go play at 18. So I got cut from the 18 and under team, and I was devastated. Well, sure enough, my coach of the 16 and under team was Ed Hospodar, who was an NHL fighter for the Rangers, the Flyers. Ed Boxcar Hospodar, that's his name. I think he's got over 1 billion career penalty minutes. But he had an interesting philosophy, something that no one had ever done in the Philadelphia area. His goal was, we are going to try to play as many hockey games outside of Philadelphia as possible. And all the parents were like, why would we do that? It's going to cost so much money, this and that. He said, because if your kids have any chance of playing anywhere that's important, they need to get out of Philadelphia. So, the 18 and under team would go play in New Jersey, and they'd go play in Pittsburgh and New York. Well, we were in Ottawa, we were in Ontario, we were in Montreal, we were in Buffalo. I was just being put in front of OHL scouts without even knowing it, week after week after week. So for me, I had no idea what the OHL was. I had no clue. I'd never seen a game before. My goal was Eric Tangradi's 16 years old. If I can somehow, some way get a Division I scholarship, I have reached the pinnacle of what I can be as a hockey player. Pro was not even in the question. Sure, in my third grade letter to my teacher, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a professional hockey player, like every other kid. But I had no idea. So Ed Hospodar took me under his wing. I was 6'2" at 16 years old, really raw, couldn't skate. But like I said, he made sure that we had exposure outside the area. He had gotten a phone call from Brian Kilray in Ottawa, because Brian and him were really good buddies. And he said, listen, you got to give this guy a look. Like, I'm telling you, he can play. He's just got to get his feet going. He's going to be a heck of a player. And Brian had said to him, and I'm probably paraphrasing, something like, you know what, we don't even know if he's going to come, but we'll take him in the late rounds. So Ed told my dad, hey, Eric, register for the OHL draft. Like, I don't know what's going to come of it. I had no idea what it was. We registered. Sure enough, the 6th round comes on, drafted by Belleville. I'm like, where's Belleville? What is Belleville? What's going on? So, Ed calls me and he goes, hey, that's great. I mean, Brian said he was going to take you in the 8th round and you got picked in the 6th round. Why don't you head up to camp and just see what it's like? So I headed up in that summer orientation camp where you can spend 48 hours so you don't lose your eligibility. I went up there and I just fell in love with it. I was like, are you kidding me? This is their arena. Like, this is their locker room. This is pretty much like playing pro without, being a professional athlete. So I told my dad, I'm like, I love it. My dad said, well, here's what, we got to take a step back. He's like, you have an opportunity to go play prep school. That's your path to get a Division I scholarship. Let's do 1 year at prep school and let's see what happens. So I said, okay, that's fine. Because, Ed had told me, you go in there as an underager, it's going to be really, really tough. It's hard to produce. It's hard to get an opportunity. So maybe you should just come back and then maybe focus on going there for your draft year. So I went to prep school, had a really great year. I went to a really small school. I didn't have a ton of Division I opportunities or looks at that time. I was still, 16, 17 years old, which you're not going to be thrown at a Division I scholarship at that age anyways. So I went back up to Belleville one more time for that a playoff game. And that's when I met George Burnett. And I think they played Brampton. They lost in the 1st round against Brampton that year. That's when they had like Wolski, Aaron Snow. They were loaded. And that's kind of when Belleville was making the turn where like Belesky just got drafted. Matthias was coming into his own. PK and Brian Cameron had developed all year as rookies. So yeah, I went and I said to my dad, like, I'm still in love with it. He goes, okay, well, George wants to meet with us in the locker room after the game. So we met in the room and, we just explored some options. My dad said, education is the most important thing to my son. And George kind of opened up the book of how you can still get an incredible education if you play in the OHL. That may be like the biggest misconception with the Ontario Hockey League is if you go, you just can't get an education. That's the farthest thing from false. So that got my dad to buy in, and he heard free hockey gear and he said, see you later, kid. So that's essentially, I know I probably went on pretty long, but that's what my path was to getting to Belleville.
I love that here. So when you get to your first year, like you're in with all the boys, right? So Belesky's here your first year, but I guess my first question is, were you in the brawl, the Kingston Belleville brawl? Because I think that was 06-07. Was that your rookie year?
06-07, yes. I lost you guys for a minute there, so I didn't hear your full question.
I was just going to say, so were you involved in the big brawl there? I think it was with Nathan Moon and Matt Pellick in 06-07, the Bulls versus France there.
Yes, and that was very memorable. So that was my rookie year, and I think we were up. I forget. We were up a lot in the game, and it was Chris Stewart came over to our bench and said, "Line brawl." And at that point, George had taken our first line off the ice and put on our 4th line. And then he took the defenseman off and he hit me in the back and said, go play defense. I said, what? I said, excuse me? He goes, go play defense. So I'm in my first year in juniors, and my coach hits me on the back after Chris Stewart screams over to the bench, line brawl, and I get sent on the ice. So the puck drops. and I keep my head down. Like, maybe if I keep my head down, someone's going to seem like I'm not very interested in what's going on. So the puck drops, and all three forwards drop the mitts. And I get my head up, and I don't know if you remember the guy named Justin Wallingford, but he's 6'7" defenseman, and he's skating towards me, and I got my head down like, please don't come this way. Don't come this way. Don't come this way. I'm like, all right, he's coming. So I drop my stuff really quick. I actually get him with a pretty quick right, and then he grabs me, and he grabs me with his right hand because he's a lefty, which I found out, and he just starts feeding me. I think I took 7 or 8 right to the head. And that was kind of like, it was terrifying, but it was also like my welcome to the Ontario League, because I got my face bashed in, and then I didn't feel any of it because of adrenaline. Of course, it hurt the next day, but I was like, if that's the worst thing that can happen to me, like, I'm going to pretty much be fearless now. So that's always one of those moments where I'm like, I always tell people like, oh, I was an absolute coward for the first 10 seconds. And the next day at school, I'm running around with a black eye. Like, look how tough I am.
Do you think something like that, like you kind of mentioned it, that, because if you go the other way, it seems like if you go, you're always wearing cages, and you Division I, you got to wear cages. There's not near as many fights. There's not line brawls. Do you think that actually helped you in the long run with playing pro and playing in the NHL? Because I know you were in at least, part of one line brawl and a few fights in the NHL too, right? Do you think that kind of helped getting over that hump of like you say, I got that first fight. Now I'm more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it teaches you like how to pick your spots too. Like, a lot of these guys who end up being like in pro, like I've seen so many college teammates of mine in the American League, like drop the gloves with the wrong guy just because they have no clue. Where I think playing junior, like I could tell you who a tough guy is from a mile away in warmups, where in college hockey, like everyone's got a cage on and people run around the entire game. They can't differentiate like who the players are, who the heavyweights are. And I also think from the standpoint of blocking shots, playing at the net, like being physical, like by having a visor on, you learn how to protect yourself while playing the game. I had a teammate, Joe Vitale, in Wilkes-Barre, who his first 10 games of the year, he's blocking shots like with his face leading in the puck. And it's like, I'm sure in college, the puck hit his cage and he was fine. But if he takes one slap shot, his career is over. So I think it definitely helped with with transitioning to the pro game for sure.
Yeah. So what other memories you have about your first year in Belleville? Because I think you guys had a pretty good team that year. You had like Tangradi was on it, right? And Belesky's there. So do you have any memories?
Tangradi put up a lot of numbers that year. I think it was like 129 points or something. Was that the year?
Yeah, no, we had an incredible team. When you talk about like, it was kind of like exactly how a junior team is supposed to be built. You have your veterans who produce, you have your younger players who are then becoming veterans, like the Mathiases and the Beleskys. They went from, really good complementary people to like top 6 beasts. And then we also had like that foundation of young core who was going to be like the next pioneers of what Belleville Bulls are. So when you look at like, having Donati, and then we had Gibbons, we had Belesky, Mathias, Murph was coming into his own. We had Kevin Lalonde. We just had such a solid group from like first line to fourth line, first D to 6D. We really felt like the sky was the limit. And unfortunately, we just ran into a Sudbury team. When you look back, like I think they were the 7th seed. They were the Cinderella story, but like on paper, they may be the best Sudbury team of all time. But that group was amazing. I remember going to Belleville. My billet family was Rob and Irene Cook, which when you come to Belleville, like they're like an iconic name in the town of Belleville. Like everybody, they give back to the community, retired teachers, like salt of the earth. I couldn't have been put in a better situation for housing. I definitely went through struggles. Like my first half of the year, I think I might have had like 2 goals and 3 assists. Like I was really in a dark place, but at that point, that was the first time I faced adversity in my career. So I really learned a lot about myself. Like, I think that first year turned me into a pro more than any other season of pro hockey, because that's the first time I struggled. And then to be able to go into that playoff series, and I think I had like 17 points in 15 games. That was kind of like my coming out party, was that in the playoffs of that year. So I'm so happy to be on with you guys because it's bringing up all these like powerful, vivid memories of the good times I had in Belleville.
I got one more about the first year.
Yeah, go ahead before
so
I go.
So just speaking of the playoffs, I just kind of had this thought. Did you not score the series clinching goal in overtime against Ottawa in the first round? Am I right about that?
Yeah. Corey Tanaka fed me on the back door. That series was kind of like my coming out party in Belleville.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember I think I had like 7 points in that series. But yeah, it was Corey Tanaka got a rebound, fake shot right to the back door, and we sent Ottawa pack, and we always had their number when I was when I was in Belleville.
How'd you feel the next day at school? Did you feel like the man?
Yeah, not as much as a man as when I had the black eyes, but I definitely felt like the man that day.
So I got a couple things here. So do you remember Mr. Shortley? And I don't know if I was going to ask you before we went on. You and I were in class together, right? You probably don't remember me. I was probably a little bit skinnier. Now I've put on some pounds. Because I think actually there was it was short. Do you remember Mr. Shortley? It was a business class. Probably not.
Yeah, I do.
I do. Grade 11 or 12. I think I'm a year or two older than you. You're an 89, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm only a year older than you. Yeah, I think Brian Cameron was in that class and maybe PK too. But it's funny you mentioned that. And then Corey Tanaka, I actually grew up playing against him. He was Richmond Hill's captain when I played for Quinny, which is minor hockey, right? So I always we had our battles with him. So I hear he's quite the character. Maybe that's a guy we'll get on too, eh, Flem? Is he a pretty funny guy?
Oh, he is one of the best human beings. Like, talk about laid back, like ideal teammate, locker room guy. Smile on his face from sun up to sundown. But yeah, he is. If he can't get you laughing, then no one on this planet will get you laughing.
We'll have to try and get him on one time. And then a couple other guys I just thought I'd ask about. But like when you come in, obviously you've got to look up to some guys. Who did you kind of look up to as far as that? Because you ended up being, the captain in your third year there. And like, was it Matt Belesky or like what was a couple of guys that you might have looked up to in your first year?
Yeah, well, I think definitely, Belesky and Matthias were the two that were kind of like, they were like the epitome of like what I wanted to be, right? Like they come in their rookie year, like Matthias didn't have a good underage year, but then like started coming into his own, had a really good draft year, went in the second round, dominated playoffs. He actually was like my ride to school my first year. So, I actually like ended up having a good relationship with him. But yeah, I would say him and Belesky were kind of like the model of who I wanted to be as a player. So just watching kind of like the way they worked, the way they kind of treated games, the way they took care of business off the ice. So I think those were two guys that I looked up to. And then obviously getting drafted to Anaheim, that kind of strengthened the bond that me and Matt had together. But I'd say probably more Sean Matthias, being he's 6'4", a little bit more raw as a skater. Like we kind of were very similar in what we were growing up and then what we would become in the pro level.
And Matthias was a sixth rounder to Belleville, I believe, as well. So,
right. So it seemed like everything aligned in our path like the entire way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. So what else could you tell us about Belleville? Because you mentioned like when you first heard about being drafted, because you're kind of expecting Ottawa, where the heck is Belleville? And trust me, we've heard that many times. Even the Toronto guys are like, where's Belleville? It's like, it's 2 hours down the highway. But and then you got here and you said you kind of fell in love, I guess. What made you feel that way, and what made you want to stay, I guess, or play here?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think not knowing anything about Canada, my extent of Canada was just going to hockey tournaments, not really like exploring. And but I grew up in Philadelphia. Like hockey was not even on the forefront. Yeah, we were Flyers fans, but like everybody I grew up with played baseball, basketball. Hockey was like, I would tell people, even when I got drafted, like, oh, I got drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. Like, oh, that's cool. My brother's cousin plays single A for the Phillies organization. Like they valued someone playing single A baseball higher than me going in the second round in the NHL. There was just like no appreciation for what hockey was. And I think that's what made me instantly fall in love with Belleville. How could this kid who grew up in a city of 2 million people fall in love with a town of 40,000? Well, because we had mutual interests. We both loved hockey. So that's why I love Belleville. And you go around the town, it was like everything was Bulls. The city was kind of like huddled around like supporting the team. And then maybe I just got lucky, but like I actually enjoyed all the relationships I made with people outside of being a Bull. Like everyone in the past would talk about, oh, the Bulls fight with the locals. And I don't know if it was like just the group we had, but in the 3 years there, like I had just as many friends that didn't play hockey that played hockey. Like I just really enjoyed not only the team, but I enjoyed the people as well.
Yeah, well, and that's the main thing too, right? And it's funny you say that because like we've never experienced the other way, right, Flem? Because everything's hockey, right? And like the same thing that we have soccer and we have basketball and that in Canada and baseball and whatever else and football, but it's hockey's the main thing, like you say, the hub, right? So it'd be kind of reverse if you were to get drafted to the MLB, it might be like, oh, my brother or whatever, or my cousin, second cousin, whatever it is, plays down on the East Coast or something, or the SPHL.
Yeah, right.
So, so that's an interesting take. And the other thing is we've had talks with guys, and I think sometimes guys get jealous, especially like going to Quinny back in the day, of the Bulls, right? Like there's the guys that don't play hockey, and because you guys can kind of get away, like athletes can kind of get away with more stuff. So, but I don't think, like I went to school with pretty much everybody on your team, and know a lot of them, that there wasn't really a lot of problems. I think it was a pretty good group. And that's probably part of the reason why you guys had so much success, right?
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. And I think it's more, like you said, it's probably more the guys coming in with like this arrogance and the players. And I just think we had such a great group. And that's, like you said, I think that's why we were able to be successful, is because, yeah, sure, like was school priority number one? Like, no. But at the same time, like when we were there, for the most part, like guys were respectful and guys treated people the same. And I think that appreciation and accountability is what made us good hockey players and a good team as well.
Yeah. So can we kind of move into year two here? So pretty big year for the Bulls, right? You guys make it to the finals of the OHL, losing Game 7 to Kitchener, but you get the Memorial Cup berth. Can you kind of walk us through that year? Like it seemed like the team really progressed throughout the year. Like you added AJ Perry later in the year, right? PK really came into his own. So can you just kind of walk us through that year a bit and talk about some of your memories from that?
Yeah, I think, that year to me, that year we were projected to have a good team, but I don't think we were projected to be like that type of team.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, George Burnett will go down as like one of the greatest coaches to ever coach in the Ontario Hockey League. But we just had players like take steps and take strides that like I think people never expected, like PK, myself, like Cameron, like I don't know, I probably put up almost 40 goals again that year. Belesky, Matthias, adding like the right veterans, adding a good solid defensive group. Murph, goaltender of the year. Like I think it was just a mixture of young guys coming into their own, and then George just having the ability to like plug people in the right spots at the right time. Like our line combinations, that's one thing like I don't think they ever changed. Like we went through ups and downs in the season, but George just had trust in chemistry and like who we were, what our identity was, and just allowing us to like make mistakes early on in the year, and then know like, come January, February, March into playoff time, like then it's time to like reel it in. So I think, he got the best out of us because he wasn't a drill sergeant, but at the same time he had, he found ways to be that drill sergeant when we needed to be. But then when we got into the playoffs, it just seemed like we were clicking on all cylinders. We were as confident as we ever were. And, we just ran into a Kitchener team, like, again, that may arguably be the best Kitchener team of all time. And we battled through some injuries in the playoffs. We fought to 7-game series, like with Kitchener before the playoff run. We had to play that stupid game in the Memorial Cup where we played Kitchener before the semifinal game that meant nothing. And we beat them. And then 2 days later, we're playing in this most meaningful, like, semifinal game where, in sports, beating the same team twice in a row is like very, very difficult to do. And then we got put in that situation. Like we just dealt with a ton of adversity, like in 48 hours. I really feel like I think we matched up better against Spokane than we did against Kitchener. I think if we got through Kitchener, we would have really put up a good fight and had a chance to win the whole thing. But that team, when I look back, it's just like sacrifice, like that was the ultimate group of guys that we deserved a better fate. But I mean, to be able to go to Memorial Cup is still a very special memory.
Yeah, 100%. So didn't Matthias, like, what happened to Matthias that year? Like, didn't he get mono like a day before the playoffs or something like that? Is that what happened? I don't 100% remember that.
Yeah, he did. He got mono, and then like at that time, it's funny, like mono was kind of like COVID, right? Like he got like 14-day protocol, like all kinds of weird stuff. The doctor wouldn't let him play because if you get hit or something, right, like you can like burst your I forget what organ that is, but yeah, spleen. Yeah, so he got held out last minute. I was dealing with knee issues, like I was playing through pain the whole playoffs. We just like I said, we just had a lot of guys banged up where. Like that game, that stupid game I told you we played against Kitchener, like I sat out for that game because it didn't mean anything. And then I got, then I'm thrown back in like that semifinal game playing through pain again. Like we just had a lot of guys go through stuff at the wrong time.
Yeah. Can you walk us through that Kitchener series? Because they get up 3-0. There's like a big fight in the stands in Belleville. I think at the end of game 2 or 3 or something like that too. So it was just like a really wild series. Can you kind of just walk us through that? What was it like being down 3-0 and kind of staging that comeback and going into game 7 too?
Yeah, it was incredible. And yeah, I remember looking up in the stands and someone was trying to light a Kitchener jersey on fire in the stands. And that's kind of what resulted in a fight.
The guy was from Kingston that did it.
Really? Yeah. So, that series was insane. I mean, there was so much tension. Being in the Western Conference, like it's hard to say like, oh, there's going to be a rivalry. Like, no, we knew in that series like this was going to be a war, and we felt like game 1, game 2, like game could have won either way. They definitely outplayed us in game 3, but I mean at that point we're down 3-0. Like we just had a mindset. It's like, okay, we can literally just give up and go to the Memorial Cup and just say we tried, or we've gotten this far. Let's be proud of who we are and what we are, and let's just fight like dogs. Let's fight as hard as we can, and let's see what happens. So we win game 4. Like, okay, sure. Game 4, it's hard to close out a team in a series. Like, game 5's back at their place. Do you think they would love to close us out at home, go have a nice little party in Kitchener, win the OHL? Like, that's the true test. So when we go in there and win game 5, that's when it was like, all right, this thing's real. Like we just stole a game there. Like we're not joking. Like we felt like we had the momentum back in our hands. And then to win game 6, like the crowd was absolutely bananas. Like I've never heard the place like that in my entire life. And I can't remember, but a part of me feels like game 6 and 7 was back to back. And I think that's like what kind of took a little bit of the sting out of the series where, we fight like dogs to win 3 in a row. And here we are on a bus after game 6, driving to Kitchener to get ready for game 7. And, 16 hours later, that was really hard, but no, I was really proud of the way we fought and, made it a heck of a series. And that, I mean, obviously losing the series wasn't ideal, but we were definitely proud of like what we accomplished as a group to be able to fight like that to get back in the series.
Yeah, and I think the whole town was proud too. Like it was a crazy comeback because I think you guys were down 2 or 3 goals in game 4 too, staged that comeback, right? And then I just remember game 7 because Matthias came back in game 7, right? So everyone thought, oh, maybe it's time. Like I don't know, it was one of the crazier series I can actually remember watching the Bulls all those years.
Yeah, and I think he scored in game 7 too, like pretty quick into the game, and I got everybody all juiced up.
But you got to be proud of being able to come back like that, right? Like most teams, they get down like that, and we probably all play with guys where they just get the negative thing in them, right? Like, oh, what's next, right? I'll be going home or whatever the case for the summer. Well, I guess you guys we're going to the Cup anyways, but you know what I mean. And the fact is that you were going to Memorial Cup anyways. To still be able to battle back and still want to win that. I feel like that's extra because a lot of guys could have just said, you know what, we're going to there anyways, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like, that's good on you guys. And obviously it didn't end the way you wanted, but I feel like it almost proves to you that, hey, we could have come back. Like it was this close, anything's possible. And I'm sure that you probably look at that reflection into your career, when you made it to the NHL and everything else, right? Like, did that help you along the way?
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, like It would be, I think it would give us more reason to fight hard if our season was over. The fact that we were already gifted a chance to go to the Memorial Cup, like we could have very easily just been like, hey, an extra week and a half off before the Memorial Cup, like, but that was not our mindset. That was not our mentality. Like that was what made that group so special, is we just did not quit. And I think, even more so than like my personal career, I think that's why we had this success in the following season. Like the following season, we had no business even maybe being projected to like make the playoffs. We were just losing way too many pieces. But I think that like underdog, never feeling like we're out type mentality is what like uplifted us to have such a great following season, and kind of surprising everybody was kind of something that happened and came from that Memorial Cup experience.
So what was it like being named captain your third year? Like that's got to be a pretty big honor, right? I think you even switched to center for the year, right? Because you said you're losing tons of guys. So yeah, what was the honor like getting the seat for Belleville?
Yeah, it was a huge honor. I mean, not only is it like, it's kind of put in your brain, being an American going to the OHL, it's like you're taking somebody else's job, right? Like there's already this like mentality, chip on your shoulder, like I need to be a heck of a player because I'm in American playing on a Canadian team. Like maybe it's not true, but that was just my mindset of like, I got to do something here because I'm already frowned upon as like somebody who's just shouldn't be here. So then to be named captain was like really, really special, to be representing a Canadian club as an American, as a captain. That was one of the greatest honors I've, accepted in my career. And it's something I embraced, fully too. And switching to center, really, really enjoyed that experience. Like a part of me wishes I would have went pro as a center, because I felt like I may have had more success at the professional level as a center than a winger. But that adjustment like allowed me to kind of get my feet going a little bit more, like getting more involved in more of the ice. But back to your question, yeah, that was a huge honor, being an American and being named captain of Belleville. It was something I really, really was proud of.
And I don't know what the stats would be, but there can't be that many guys that have been captains that aren't Canadian, right? In the OHL or even the CHL. I mean,
yeah, because
it'd be interesting to see what the numbers are on that. But like you say, like you're American coming in, most guys, they might play for a year or two or whatever the case, right? So
yeah, when you look back at like Americans, like you got your Patrick Kanes who come for like a year or two and leave. Like most of your Americans are like drafted and gone. Very rarely do they have such an impact on their team where they can stay and become a captain of a team.
Yeah. So I got one good one. And when you brought up the American-Canadian thing, I had a snicker because it reminded me of something. So that year you played World Juniors, and the Canadian, that was a massive – the funny thing was that was what, 13 years ago, 13 years ago, something like that.
2009, yeah.
Fleming and I actually were together for that game.
Because it was New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, right? And at our buddy's place with a couple other guys. And I remember that John Tavares goal was just huge. And then can you talk us through kind of maybe what happened there?
Yeah, sure. So I'll lead it off by saying, that World Juniors was the most incredible experience of like, I think that was kind of the pioneer for what World Juniors is today. Before then it was like, okay, we're going to do it in Ufa, Russia. We're going to do it in the Czech Republic. Like we're just going to move it around the country. And then like maybe every 8 years, bring it back to North America. I think that tournament was like eye-opening to the IIHF. Like this is the way to get this tournament on the map. And since then, you've now seen like almost every other year it's in the United States or Canada, as it should be. Because why wouldn't you want 17,000 fans watching this tournament every single game? And I think that was like the first time that they, considered, all right, let's do it in the NHL arena. Let's do it in Ottawa. And let's see what this thing can be. And it was that game. I almost had like tears in my eyes. Like I could feel the arena shaking, the national anthem, like the fans carrying the Canadian flag around the lower bowl. It was absolutely amazing. And then for us to go up 3-0 in that game, like probably arguably, I mean, the Russia gold medal game is probably the greatest game in history, but like that was one of the coolest games to ever be a part of. So yeah, it was just like the rivalry, even before puck drop, everybody knew the stakes of that game. And they had a bunch of egotistical maniacs on their roster, and we had a bunch of egotistical maniacs on ours. So it was just nonstop chirping, and it's just like almost like playoff hockey. Like nobody has to worry about fighting because you can't fight in the World Junior Tournament. Just like in playoffs, nobody fights because no one can afford to be in the penalty box for 5 minutes. So you have guys who would normally be talking and yapping who wouldn't say a word in a regular season game because you just gloves come off and you just beat the wheels off them and you move on. But the World Junior Tournament's different. So the player that I dropped my stick, just kidding. The player that I put my stick out toward had been yapping the whole game nonstop. And in a normal game, in a normal situation, like he's like a little Yorkie dog. You just whack him and you put him back in his place and you move on. So, after their first goal, he comes by the bench and he's staring at the bench and he's yelling at us. The second time he comes by, he's yelling at us. The third goal, he looks directly at our bench and he says something really, really, really offsides. So I just leaned my stick down because, at that point, if I wanted to get off the bench and hit him with a baseball swing and actually try to hurt him, that like my intentions were like not to like hurt him. It was kind of like put my stick down. If you're this close to the bench, like a little bit of like a tap, like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Hits him in the visor. He acts like he gets a sniper shot from the second level. And Reams like gets suckered in the back of the head, like all hell breaks loose. And I'm used to Belleville, Cogeco TV, where you can barely see the name on the back of my jersey because there's no HD at that point. So I don't know the repercussions of this. So sure enough, I see after the game, it's like, that's the stick of number 25, Eric Tangradi of the Belleville Bulls. Like Pierre's airing me out. At that time, I don't even think Twitter was a thing, but like my Facebook is blowing up, like people telling me like you're a traitor, like you're not welcome back in Belleville. Like it was hysterical. And I'm telling you, if I had Twitter at that point, I probably would have been suspended from the platform because of all the people that were sending me hate messages. But it was a harmless, like you can see it, right? Like my stick just kind of gets placed there. It hits him in the visor. He acts like he gets shot from the heavens above, but terrible move by me. Something I regret to this day, but one of the coolest games to be a part of. They didn't beat us. We lost. That's how I feel. Our coach, after going up 3-0, they call a timeout and he's like, all right, we're going to play a 1-3-1. We're going to play a zone defense only. Meanwhile, you have 5 Hall of Famers on the other team. Like you can't put these guys in a zone. Like we need to stay on the attack. So I felt like we lost that game. They didn't beat us.
I love that description, what you just did, by the way, because I kind of teed you up there and didn't know where you're going to go with it. So, by the way, that was awesome. I love the whole description, especially the Cogeco thing. Yeah, I love how you threw that in there because that's so true, right? Like, I don't even know when they have games on there now if it's HD or whatnot. But,
and Eric, I think you just picked a bad night to do it too, buddy. New Year's Eve, like everyone's getting into it, right? And you probably got a few extra messages just probably because of the night, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, that's still like my stupid, like naive Philadelphia mindset where like I watch a couple World Juniors and just assume that on New Year's Eve, US versus Canada, that like 10 million people aren't going to view and I'll do something stupid. Nobody's going to know about it. Like,
was that one of the most intense games you ever played in though? Because I just remember watching that game. Like, I don't know, but just the atmosphere, watching it on the TV just seemed, it was out of this world. It felt like.
Yeah, no, at that point it was for sure. And it was throughout my entire career until I played in the playoff series in Pittsburgh against Philadelphia. Yeah. At that point, U.S. versus Canada, the Canadians are respectful. The U.S. hockey fan base is like a tenth of what Canadian hockey base is. But when you have the city of Pittsburgh that hates the city of Philadelphia playing in a playoff series, like that was like the most intense I've ever felt in a game. That Canada-U.S. was at the time the most intense, and then that took over from there.
I'd agree with that. I think, and you kind of talked about it before with the World Juniors, but I think obviously the best hockey in the world is playoff hockey. There's no question, right? But a lot of people, their second thing is that World Juniors. They'd watch that, before anything else, before NHL regular season games kind of thing. It's pretty intense, and like you say, you got whatever 17, 18, 19,000 fans for a junior hockey game, and they're going wild. And they're all on the cool thing too is they're all on the same team. They're all cheering for the same team, right? Where that's it's got to be something you remember forever. But now do you want to get into you already spoke about Philly and Pitt. You want to talk about that then? Because I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. So, my pro journey was pretty wild. Like, being just in Belleville and, never being traded, never really experiencing like the business part of hockey, getting drafted by Anaheim, never wearing a sweater there at all, getting traded to Pittsburgh. When you go from like the Anaheim market of summer hockey, like the summer camps, to the Pittsburgh market, that was like sort of my welcome to the NHL. Like, whoa. I remember going to development camp in Anaheim and there was 400 people in the stands. I remember going to development camp in Pittsburgh and there was 5,000 people in the stands. It was just kind of like, this is the big leagues. Like, this is insane. Even going into Wilkes-Barre my first year pro, like 10,000 fans at an AHL hockey game, rivalries, like every team's an hour away. And it was like, after the 4 fights started the game, then we could play hockey. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And I'm very thankful to be able to start my career with the Pittsburgh organization. And growing up in Philadelphia, my dad still says to this day, he's like, the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life is watching you put on a Penguin sweater. So I always find that to be like pretty funny. But no, I had great experiences in Pittsburgh. I mean, the playoff series with Philly, being a part of like playing with being in the locker room, playing with Crosby for a couple of years, like that was absolutely amazing. People don't realize that the work that guy puts in outside of the game, he's not just gifted. Like he's obviously God-given talent, but he works 10 times harder than any other player around him. The early stages of my career, I was kind of raw, immature. I wish I had a little bit more fearlessness of like willingness to make mistakes, just stay true to what kind of player I was instead of trying to be something that I wasn't. And that's kind of like how my journey was in Pittsburgh, where I didn't really enjoy it. I was under so much stress to be the next winger for Sidney Crosby that I didn't even enjoy my experience. I was so stressed and so concerned about, what I needed to be versus like, I'm here for a reason. I'm a hell of a player. Like, just go out and play.
Oh, that's a good take on it, right? So like it's that confidence too, right? Like everything's on your shoulders. It's like, you're well, I've talked about somebody with this today, but you're working and your boss is looking over your shoulder. That's when you're going to screw up, right? You're so stressed, you got your coaches looking at you and is he the next guy? And that's when you're not going to play well. It's when you're nice and loose and relaxed and your confidence is flying. That's when things are going to happen. But could you walk us through maybe your first NHL game and maybe what was going through your mind? I always like to hear that because that's always a special moment for guys, right? So could you tell us a bit about that, maybe the day of and your first shift and whatnot?
Yeah. So I remember playing a game in Binghamton. We had just played 3 games in 3 nights, which is a staple in the American League. So we played Thursday, let's see. We had a scheduled for 4 games in 5 nights. So we played Wednesday, we played Thursday, so we played Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and we were supposed to play Sunday back at home. So I had played Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. We're on the bus back from Binghamton Saturday. We were prepared to play at 2:00 on Sunday. And I get off the bus and my coach is just smiling and he comes and sees me and it's Todd Reardon and he says, "Eric, we're playing in the National Hockey League tomorrow." I said, "What?" He goes, "Playing in the National Hockey League." I was like, I couldn't even speak, right? Like I was like, I didn't even know what's that mean? Like, how am I going to like get there? What do I do with my bag? Like, what do I need to like? It was crazy. So he just says, "Go back to the house." It's like, "Go to sleep. The Penguins are playing the Islanders tomorrow at 2 p.m. Someone's going to pick you up, 5 p.m. Someone's going to pick you up in a car at 9 o'clock. They'll drive you over to the island. You can kind of chill in your room and then head over to the rink." So I get back to my apartment at probably like, 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, try telling a kid he's playing his first NHL game and get some sleep, right? So I'm over there like picking out my suit. I'm calling my dad. I'm like, "Tickets." He's like, "Can you call and see if we can get tickets?" I go, "Dad, it's 1:30 in the morning. What do you mean we get tickets?" He's like, "Why don't you try to get some rest?" I'm like, "I can't sleep. I don't even know what how am I going to get my hockey bag?" He's like, "It's okay." He's like, "Your car's at 9:30. Like, just wake up at 8:30 in the morning and just call somebody. And if you need to go down to the rink." So I stay up. I mean, I maybe got like 45 minutes of like just so exhausted, sleep. So sure enough, my alarm goes off, and I'm like, hey, where's my bag? What am I going to do with my gear? They're like, it's all packed in the car. Just get in the car, drive to the rink. So they drive me to Long Island, and you hear about like adrenaline. Like adrenaline is real. Like I didn't yawn one time. I wasn't fatigued. I get to the rink. All the guys are introducing themselves to me. Like unbelievable experience. I remember playing in the game. Like in that moment in that game, like I could have played 5-minute shifts and not even been out of breath. Like I was flying up and down the wall, like finishing checks. Like I remember the game in Long Island, like I had like 2 or 3 really good opportunities to score, like probably my best game pro ever. It was like literally someone had given me like a superhero drug like before the game to like just perform. It was like the most incredible experience. And then I remember after, it was like the last game of the season, so there was no expectations. It was like just play, last game of the season, you're getting sent back to Wilkes-Barre after the game, like enjoy this whole moment. So played the game, played great reviews from all the players, like taking pictures with like Billy Guerin and Sid, like everyone's telling me like awesome game, go back to Wilkes-Barre in the playoffs. And I remember getting in the car after the game, like taking 2 breaths and just like head falling against the seat, just like passed out. Because essentially I played 4 games in 5 nights, didn't sleep, and one of them was in my first NHL game. So it was the coolest experience ever.
Who were your line mates for that game?
I played with Jordan Stahl and Tyler Kennedy.
Well, that's not a bad line to get to start with,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about 2, like, just keep it puck moving forward, get it in, finish checks, break the puck out. Like just the easiest game to play your first NHL game.
And that Pittsburgh team, I think they were a year away. I think that was the year before they won the cup, right?
Yeah.
So they had one hell of a team. Like they probably would have had a lot of guys, and like you say, Guerin. And like, what's it like going into the room though, and there's a Crosby there? Like, I mean, Crosby's our Gretzky. I mean, I know he's not Gretzky. I'm not comparing him, but I'm saying he's our. I mean, everybody knows Crosby, right? Like, what's it like? It's got to be surreal going in and you're playing with Sidney Crosby.
Right. It's like it's crazy, but he's like I shouldn't say like but like to me, he was crazy intimidating, right? Like just his presence of, you see this guy's face everywhere, and then you walk into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, that's him. But then he hops right out of his seat and he says, hey, Eric, like congratulations, like welcome, like talk about like an unbelievable guy, unbelievable leader. That's the type of stuff like you don't see. Like, they show him, they get the camera on him and on TV, like him taping his stick, and he's super serious and he's dialed in. And yeah, of course, like that's his arena. Like he's getting ready to perform. So he has this portrayed image of like being this like ultimate 24/7 competitor, when in reality, like he's an awesome guy. Like he's just super down to earth. He's laid back. But when he opens the door to the rink, like it's game on, practice or not. So I really like learned to appreciate like his craft more than just being a player, but like as a person as well.
Yeah. Now, one thing I always remember about Pittsburgh, and I guess kind of during this time frame, is it seems like they were always putting pranks and stuff on TV that Marc-André Fleury would play on guys. Did you ever see any pranks or have any played on you your first couple of years in the show?
Yeah. So the funniest prank they ever pulled was when I got traded. But I'd seen when they one time they took all the hotel furniture out of a guy's room and put it in the hallway. So a rookie could come back to his room and his dresser and his lamp and his chairs like in the hallway. And as a rookie, like you're like a no questions asked type of guy. So you're just like, what do I do? So then you just start lugging all your stuff back in your room. But I remember getting traded to Winnipeg, and my first game after getting traded from Pittsburgh to Winnipeg was against Pittsburgh. So I'd flown into Winnipeg like 2 days before the game, and sure enough, Pittsburgh was staying in the same hotel as me at the time because I hadn't had any time to find a place to live. So the first thing they do when they get there is they hand out all the players' keys, and somehow, some way, Marc-André Fleury finds out that I'm in the same hotel, gets the person at the front desk to tell them my room number, and he does the old, grabs a garbage can and fills it up with an ice bucket of water and tilts it on my door so that when I open the door, it splashes all over my feet. So sure enough, like I'm getting prepared for like the ultimate game against my former team, and I get a knock on the door, and I run out and open the door in my cold, wet socks because somebody called a leaner. Someone put a leaner on my door, and I stand out in the hallway and I wait like 5 seconds, and I'm like, who was it? And I just hear Fleury's little laugh, like, and he goes,
That's awesome. Yeah, because all you hear about, that guy is that everybody loves him, right? He's just a fun guy on and off the ice, and an awesome teammate. And I guess he's moved around a bit recently. But what are your thoughts on him as far as a goaltender and all that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimate competitor. Like, they showed footage of him the other day in Minnesota. Like, you see him in warm-ups, like taking shots like he was playing in a game, like diving all over the ice in warm-ups. Like, he tries so hard in practice. Like, he's a fun, great teammate, but he's also like a warrior. Like, he wants to get better every single day. Like, he's not just playing hockey right now just to like dance his way into retirement. Like, he's playing to win. I've always respected that about him. And he just kind of fell into that trap of like the salary cap. Like, when you pay a goaltender $7 million, it's hard to keep them on your roster unless they're like franchise type goaltender at the time. So it's a shame, because I think ultimately they would have loved to keep him in Pittsburgh. Vegas would have loved to keep him as well. Every team has nothing but like great things to say about him. It's just in a salary cap era, like somebody has to be expendable for that kind of stuff. And it just seems like the nicest guy, the greatest teammate in the world, is just like getting passed around the league, which is crazy to think about.
I thought Toronto was going to go after him this year. I really did. I thought they might try and make some moves. They would have had to, get rid of somebody, but I thought that would have been fun. But Minnesota, so they're a team that they made a bunch of moves this offseason or this deadline. So they got, and it's is it not Billy Guerin?
Yeah, Billy Guerin, yeah.
So that's kind of cool. What's your thoughts on that? You got, a guy that was it just the one game you played with him? He retired, didn't he? But that's kind of cool. And then you see a guy like that. They say, he's a GM now. So, so what's your thoughts on him or any of the other guys like Malkin? We didn't talk about him.
Yeah, no, Billy had stayed in Pittsburgh, even after as like a player personnel guy. So I got to have a good relationship with him over my time in Pittsburgh, even watching him become an assistant GM in Pittsburgh. It really makes you like realize how old I'm getting now, when like guys that I used to play with or guys that like I've been associated myself with are like now getting GM jobs, or now there's some of their kids are starting to like play in the OHL. But no, Billy Guerin was, always one of the greatest guys. Great hockey mind. Really proud, like USA Hockey member. Like really took it personal that like USA Hockey was important to him. And I think like he's just kind of like hit his stride of what his potential is. Like, sure, he was a great player, but I think he's destined to be like a great GM. And then when it comes to Malkin, like I think like him and Crosby are like polar opposites when it comes to their approach to the game. Like Malkin is a lot more laid back, lets his game like does the talking. And then if, he wants to let his hair down and people see him, like he doesn't care. Like he's can use the language barrier against him if he wants to. He just likes to, he openly just likes to have like a lot more fun with things and not take hockey quite as serious.
Now, what's it like talking to a guy like that? Like some of these Europeans, like can he speak really good English, or does he just, I know sometimes, like you said there, he kind of says, oh, I didn't really understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like even when you hear him speak today, like he speaks fantastic English, but when I was there, it was like 10 years ago, and he understood everything you were saying to him. But if he just didn't feel like entertaining the conversation, it's I don't understand. So sometimes I wish I had that ability right now, where somebody's yelling at you and it's like, sorry, don't understand.
Oh, that's funny.
I got
one. And then, so you got one fun? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, can we just circle back a little bit to when you actually get drafted in the NHL? Because we kind of simmed over here. So what was that day like when you actually get drafted by Anaheim? Did you go to the draft? And how happy were your mom and dad that went down for you?
Yeah, the draft is crazy. The draft to me is like such a blur. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was like so surreal that it just like I blacked out, or if it was like, this is where I'm supposed to be and it's not that big of a deal. I remember it being in Columbus, and there's a couple memories that are like very vivid to me. Like I remember being ranked like right around that 100 mark. So I never did a combine. So the draft was like work for me. I had to get to the draft on Wednesday. I was scheduled for like 15 interviews on Wednesday and Thursday. Because as you know, like with the combine, you do all the performance testing and then you meet with all the teams there. So before the draft, it was like, go to this hotel, and on every single floor, it seemed like there was a different organization. So I'm, Philly at 2, Columbus at 2:45, Anaheim at 3:15, like that kind of stuff. And I really don't remember any of my interviews except my Anaheim one. And I remember sitting down and I'm in this hotel room, not even like a conference room. I'm just like in a hotel room, and I got Brian Burke, Bob Murray, and Brian Burke just kind of goes to me. He's like, "All right, kid." He's like, you just tell me why I should draft you. Like, you got 2 minutes, go. And I'm like, whoop. But for some reason, it's just like everything else in my career, certain things just clicked at the right time. I just said, I got a lot of work to do, but I can promise you, like, I'm going to play in the NHL. I know it. I can tell by like my game. I suit up really well. I'm big, strong, play. My best stats are in the playoffs. Like, I play big games. That's what I can tell you. And sure enough, I left. He's like, all right, thanks. And then I walked out. My dad's like, how'd your interview with Anaheim go? Terrible. It's like awful. So then I remember, like, I went to the draft on Friday. It was the first round. Didn't really even like think much of it. My agent's like, yeah, there's a good chance you could go in like, possibly the highest third, probably around like the 4th or 5th round. So, we go the first round. I hear Anaheim makes a trade. They like push back a few spots, and then they acquire a 2nd round pick where they move up a bunch of spots. So didn't think anything of it. The following day, 42nd pick comes on, and they're like, oh, the pick from Belleville, Ontario, Belleville Bulls, Eric Tangradi. And I'm like, whoa, like this happened quick, because people see the first round on TV and it takes like 3 hours to get through it. The 2nd round, it's like everyone stays at their desk and they just start ripping names off. They just start going. Like, by the time you get to the floor to meet them, they've already picked like 3 more picks behind you. So it was like everything happened like crazy fast. I go down there and Brian Burke's like, hey, I almost took you in the first round. Like, that's how much we loved you. Like, we've been following your game. We watched all your playoff games, hearing what you said. Like, we don't want people who just like BS for hours about like, you were right to the point. Like, it was like very, very cool experience to go through. And then when you think about like winning over one of like the most, arguably one of like the most monumental general managers in history was pretty cool.
Did you ever talk with Berkey beyond that? Like, what was he like?
He's straight business. I mean, he guys that like got a chance to meet him, like, loved him. Like I told you, I never got a chance to like officially like play for them. Whenever you deal with like signing your entry level contract, it's usually the assistant GM that like takes care of that stuff. But it was, it was never like, I never had a chance to meet him on like a personal level. It was always like a business level. So when I got traded, it was like straight business. Like, they were just like, we're getting top 4 defensemen, Ryan Whitney, and you and Chris Kunitz are going to Pittsburgh. Like, that's just thank you for everything. We know you're going to be a good pro. Like, that was kind of the extent of the conversations we had.
Yeah, and it's crazy you got traded for Whitney. He probably runs the 2nd most popular hockey podcast going, right besides this one. So,
heck yeah.
And then Chris Kunitz put a dent in my hopes. I'm a Sens fan 3 or 4 years ago. Remember the double overtime game 7?
I do remember that well.
Well, how about that guy for a player? He ends up being, I don't want to call Crosby's sidekick, but I think that definitely had something to do with it. Made the Olympic team the one year, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely like, as much as you want to say you can plug anybody in to play with Crosby, like, think about how many line mates he's had over like the last 10 years. It was definitely like an art to be able to craft your game to benefit from playing with Crosby. And I mean, you talk about the perfect fit of Kunitz just being like an in-your-face scoring winger. It was kind of a match made in heaven. And I always joke that thank God for Chris Kunitz, because then I know people wouldn't realize how much of a bust I was in that trade.
Well, I don't know about that. I think you played quite a bit of games, but what's your thoughts on when you get traded? Because you get traded to Winnipeg. Obviously, now you're back up in Canada, and it's pretty cold there. And, a lot of times there's some negative rumors, I want to say, as far as guys playing there, just because I think of how cold it is and the harsh winters. So what was your thoughts on that? And did you enjoy it there, or how was it?
I loved it in Winnipeg. So Winnipeg is it's incredible to be like a young pro in Winnipeg. I can see the challenges for guys who have families. It is such a small community. Like you can't even buy a grocery without somebody like coming up to you and talking about the last night's game. You can't grab dinner anywhere without somebody, mentioning the Jets. Like I remember, I was prepared to propose to my wife at a steakhouse in Winnipeg, the nicest steakhouse in town. And we go to sit down at our table, and there are 4 fans in Winnipeg Jets jerseys next to us. And I go, who in their right mind goes to a freaking steakhouse in 4 Winnipeg Jets jerseys on a Saturday night? Like, I can't do this right now. So called off the engagement at the steakhouse in Winnipeg. But that's kind of like to give you an idea of like how intense they are. And it's amazing. Like that community wanted nothing more than a playoff team, a contender, and they got their teams for like a lot of years. I just happened to be there during their transition, but for me, it was great. I got an opportunity to play, had probably some of my best years as a pro there. I just had a hard time like producing, like would play really good games and hit a post or, miss a spot. Like felt like my stats were very like, they weren't very telling of like what I was able to accomplish while I was there. And once Maurice came in, that was kind of their official like transition into like being a contender and trying to spend some more money and sign players. And that's kind of when I knew the writing was on the wall. But my experience there was great. I definitely enjoyed my time. I just wish I would have had, one more opportunity to show what I was capable of there.
Now, did
well,
you
we got to hear
like,
about what happened with the engagement though?
So I ended up having to do it in my apartment.
Okay.
That night?
I still hear about it to this day, how not intimate it was.
Was it the same night though as a steakhouse?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So you're kind of saying like, you thought maybe you'd get one more crack. Like, did you ever think later in your career you'd get one more crack at the show? Like, you're putting up big numbers in the AHL, right? Like, you're almost a point a game guy. Like, is there ever a point, kind of, your last 2-3 years in the AHL, you think, I'm gonna get one last kick of the can here?
That was the most frustrating part. So
Yeah.
for me, I was young, like immature pro. And I think once I had left Hamilton, that organization, when I got traded to Montreal, I signed with Grand Rapids on a really low price contract. And that was kind of like my calling that summer of like, the heck with it. Like, just be you, just be the best version of you, be confident, be strong, like took boxing lessons, like just tried to round out every part of my game, like hired a sports psychologist. And I just went on like an absolute tear in the American League. And I felt like the best version of myself. I felt like if you would have plugged me on the Detroit Red Wings that year, and every year that I was in Grand Rapids, like I would have scored 10 to 20 goals with them. But being 25, 26 years old, it's hard. You don't get second chances in the National Hockey League. It's terrible to say, but I scored 28 goals that year, probably one of the most consistent players on the team, and I got one NHL game. That's it, one NHL game. The following year I win a Calder Cup. I set the franchise record for most assists in a postseason, winning a Calder Cup. I play a total of one. The following year I scored 31 goals in Grand Rapids, 5th in the entire league in points. I played one NHL game for the Detroit Red Wings in the 3 years that I accomplished everything I just told you, just because Eric Tangradi already got his chance. So that was like the hardest part for me. I was very proud of like what I had become as a player, but like almost had this like tension of like, this is messed up. Like, this ain't right. Like, I know that I'm better than players. I'm better. I can perform better, but I'm not a prospect anymore. So I just don't get an opportunity with a franchise that's going through a rebuild. And that was really, really hard for me to swallow.
So, yeah, no doubt about it. Did the thoughts of Europe ever come up? Because a lot of guys, when they, like you speak of, where that they're going up and down, and they kind of, I don't know if the right wording is, they kind of get sick of it, or they want to move on. Did you ever think about that? Like, guys will go, I think you went to the KHL, right? But that was with COVID, was it not? They have to do with COVID?
No, that was before COVID.
Oh, that was before COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you went there for looks like part of a season. But did you ever think about going before? Because I know guys will go, they'll sign in Sweden, and the top league, and end up being, the top dog there, or the KHL, or did that ever come up?
My thought process was like was kind of always NHL driven, right? Like you play professional hockey for so long, the fun love of the game gets sucked out of you. You like those experiences that I told you, like watching players surpass me that I knew I outworked, that I outperformed, that I outplayed. Being in the leadership role in the American League, like I enjoyed it, but I always felt like as a leader, the best leadership I could give a younger player is to hold him accountable, to make him like, get up to my level or you're not doing enough. And I've had so many line mates of mine in the American League advance to the NHL that I'm proud to say, like, I put a lot of pressure on them at a young age, and that's why they're where they are now. So for me, like after I scored that 31 goals in Grand Rapids, they offered me like probably top 3 best American League salaries in the league that following year. And my mindset was, you know what, guys, I'm not doing this for money. Like I want to play in the NHL. So I'm going to, if you won't give me a one-way, which is basically you guys telling me like we have a commitment and a show of faith that we're going to have you play in the NHL, like I have to look elsewhere. So I ended up looking elsewhere and signing with New Jersey. And I played 5 out of 5 or 6, I don't know, 5 games, maybe 6 games with New Jersey at 31 years old. Those are probably my best 5 NHL games I've ever played in my life because that was my first opportunity to get back in the NHL. Sure enough, New Jersey going through a rebuild wasn't a part of their plans. I was more of a filler for injuries, but not somebody that they envisioned as like an everyday guy. So they chose not to re-sign me, which is okay. So I didn't have a contract that whole summer. And like you said, is Europe an option? Well, at this point, it was like, I can't uproot my family. Like my wife, we have a young daughter. We just had birth to our son. Like I'm going to play this game for like one reason only, and it's for the money. So where can I make the most amount of money? What if I'm going to make this ultimate sacrifice to go play overseas, where can I make the most amount of money? And that's the KHL. So I went over, left my wife at home, went and played in Kazakhstan and did it for like 4 or 5 months. And it wasn't for me. Like I just didn't enjoy the process, didn't enjoy the way that the hockey's played over there. And I came back, and of course my comfortable side was like, okay, we love Grand Rapids. Let's call them and see if we can get an opportunity on an AHL deal to play there. So I went back, had a really good season back in Grand Rapids. I got off to a great start, scored a bunch of goals, and then COVID hit. So then after COVID, my options were go to Europe or retire. And for me, it was always NHL's got to be the goal. If you can't play in the NHL, what's the point of playing? And that's what forced me into retirement, because I did have options to go play in Germany, had options to go play in Sweden, and I just felt like I'd put my family through enough. It's time to transition, and it's time to move on.
Well, yeah. Honestly, thanks for being the honesty there, because, and you're right on that. I think you answered my question to a T. It's like it's easy for somebody to say, just go to Europe and do this. You got your family, right? And it's especially with young kids and your wife and everyone else, and who knows about your parents and her parents, the grandparents of your kids. There's a lot more that goes on, right? And a lot of guys don't realize that, even in North America, when you get traded. Well, a lot of guys, you get traded, you leave your family and your home back there, right? So it's a massive adjustment. So obviously the KHL didn't work out as planned. But could you talk about that for a minute? Like, what are some positives or mostly negatives, I guess, about that?
So yeah, the KHL is just like it's a different beast. The hockey is very, very, very different. So half of the rinks are Olympic size and the other half are NHL size rinks. So obviously, like, the adjustment wasn't that big. I played in Belleville. The Yardman was an Olympic size rink. But once you start incorporating the pro game in that, like, it totally changes the way you need to play the game. Like, we talk about on a Friday night playing in the NHL rink and trying to finish checks, and on a Saturday night stick checking all over the ice, because if you finish a check, you're totally out of the play. The whole strategy and the philosophy of the game, like, you are looked upon when you're brought in, like you're an import. You have one goal when you're there, and it's to score. And if you do not score, it doesn't matter anything else you brought to the game. You could literally screen the goalie on 4 goals that go in the back of the net. The guy that shot it is looked upon like the unicorn, and you that screen the goalie are not appreciated at all. So for me, like I was playing really good hockey over there, but didn't capitalize on some chances, didn't produce. And it was just like endless every morning, 7 a.m. meeting to watch video with the coach. The coach is there with a translator trying to tell me, certain things about how to play that just didn't really add up a whole lot to me. But I sat there, I listened, and it's just like going through that over and over and over again, come to the rink, getting called out, like, oh, if you don't score, like in general, if you imports don't score, we're going to send you home with nothing. Like, okay, guys, you can threaten me for so long. I'm making the ultimate sacrifice. Like, I know what I provide to this team. It's not for me. But at the same time, like they do treat their teams like from a standpoint of like living, like I felt safe. So I did feel safe there. That would be something that like some players didn't have the same experience, but I did feel safe there. It was organized like really, really well. But as far as like being an import and how they kind of treat you, if you're scoring, you're the king. If you have a slump, you're like the worst person in the locker room. So for me, that was like, what am I doing here? This isn't for me.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about. I didn't realize that with the different size of rinks, like that's got like obviously back in it's not anymore in Belleville, but back in the day you had one, right? Belleville had it, and I think it could have been an advantage. But to have like half the rinks, or close to, I think that's pretty crazy. I didn't realize that. And I've heard a lot of different things about the KHL. How NHL everything's almost got to be the same, right? And one of your old teammates I'm good buddies with is Sean Lalonde, and he was playing there a couple of years ago. Maybe it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I played against him.
Like the one town, what's the capital of Russia?
Moscow or St. Petersburg.
Yeah. Maybe it's St. Petersburg. And like they're staying the one night, and it's like a 5-star hotel, and it's unreal. And then they went to some other place, and it was like they didn't even have hotels. They had to stay at like the university, and it was like he had like a little single bed, and I'm like, how the hell do you go from one extreme to the other, right? But I mean, that's part of playing in Russia. It's one difference to the other, where I think in North America it's more in the middle, right? You're getting the same stuff. You know what you're getting. So, but definitely an interesting take on that with the game, because I could see it. One guy, I'm a Sens fan, so one guy I know that they wouldn't understand is like a Brady Tkachuk, right? Like so many little things he brings to a game. Yeah, he scores some goals and stuff. And you probably played a lot like him, big guy, net front, right? Where you bring all those attributes, especially come playoff time. Like you say, you're always a playoff guy. They go so far where you move that to a European style game. They don't understand it, right? It's just it's not their style. Brady Tkachuk probably wouldn't survive out there.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Same thing. It's like does Josh Norris get the type of space that he gets without Tkachuk, right? Like does Batherson get the time and space without Tkachuk driving the middle of the net every time, like going to paint and clearing space, like certain things that true hockey people understand. Like their game over there is just so like military driven, where you just go as fast as you can up and down the ice, and everybody has a robotic job. And if you don't do it, like they just don't see like the development of the play and the impact that certain players have on other players. That's important.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take. I just got one more question for you here. Did your dad ever wear a Pittsburgh jersey?
So it's hilarious. My first game back in Philly, they wore T-shirts that said, what was it? Pittsburgh by affiliation, Philadelphia by location, like something. And they had to wear the Pittsburgh T-shirts underneath their Flyers T-shirts because they were too scared that people in Philly would throw stuff at them.
So, but never a jersey, eh?
No.
What about jerseys for you? You must have a Penguins jersey hanging up at your home or anything like that?
So I have we're still working on my basement area, but yeah, I have a great lineup of jerseys, but I'll probably just most likely keep out my captain Belleville jersey, my Penguins first NHL game, the World Junior jersey, and probably my Winnipeg jersey because I play my most amount of pro games with them.
Oh, I got one more thing just because you mentioned it. I forgot to in my notes here. As you know, growing up, Don Cherry was the man. I'm pissed off that he's gone. Not on the air anymore. But I was watching a thing, and I actually remember when it happened where you got a big shout out by Don Cherry on Coach's Corner for I believe 4 block shots in one shift. So that's something really cool, honestly. Like, not everybody, he doesn't just talk about anybody, and that's, again, where in Europe they might not appreciate that. I know in the Canadian and North American game, you guys blocking shots, especially playoff time, that's unbelievable. So that's pretty cool. Did that make you feel cool? I know maybe as an American it's not quite the same as a Canadian, but
it ended up turning into it was funny. It ended up turning into like a big gag joke amongst all my buddies and friends. Like, everyone's like, we remembered you as a goal scorer. What happened? And then they send that clip. And it's just my lifeless body diving all over the place in Don Cherry, being like, messing up my last name and being like, Tangradi, that's a good block, a bunch of block shots. Because, he messes up everybody's last name. But it was really cool. It was a cool video, like iconic hockey mind, just to be able to like roll his name off your tongue, like between him and the block shots and Pierre Maguire mentioning my name after sticking Canadian in the face. Like, awesome.
So definitely some awesome memories. Well, you got any more questions, Fleming?
Yeah, I got one more, Eric. So how proud are you of your career? Like, you come over from the States, you come to Belleville at 17, you go to the Memorial Cup, you win a Calder Cup, you play 150 games in the show. I mean, how proud are you now that it's all said and done?
Yeah, I'm very, very proud of my journey, my path, what I was able to accomplish. Winning a Calder Cup, sure, it's not a Stanley Cup, but winning the highest trophy at the American League level and having such an impact on that team. I'm really proud of everything I've accomplished in my career. Obviously, like most people, like I feel like I had a lot more to give to the game. I felt like I was cut short by COVID, some other things. But yeah, no, I have no regrets. I'm really proud of my career, what I've accomplished. The most important thing is, I think, of my journey being from Philadelphia, I really am proud of the fact that I'm somebody that a lot of young players in the area like lean on for their futures. My wife's from Pittsburgh. I married a Pittsburgh girl, so I live in Pittsburgh now. But between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, like I have a lot of like up and coming hockey players reach out that want to hear like, tell me about your path. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I think that's a reflection of my journey. Like, just being this raw, tall, overweight kid from Philadelphia that just found his way playing in like some of the craziest places in the world. That's what gives me like hope and positivity that the next generation finds value in what I've accomplished.
And now you seem like you're a guy that's still just very in tune with the game. Like, you talk about Brady Tkachuk driving the net, you pretty much the whole Senators roster kind of top of your head. Did you ever see yourself like getting into coaching or managing or just kind of maybe an agent's role and staying involved in the game?
I thought about it. I do think I could provide like a ton of value from a coaching standpoint. The problem with that is it would be hard for me to, what we put our wives and our children through as players is a lot. Like my daughter, she's lived in like 5 different houses in like a 3-year span, right? My wife has pretty much had to give up like all of her life for me for years and years and years. And to jump into a coaching role is pretty much a player's schedule plus being at the rink doing video for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day longer. So at this point in my life, I'm very comfortable like transitioning into real estate, but I do think I would provide like a ton of value in a coaching role. I just don't think I'm there yet. Like I have my personal closure from hockey. I just think I need a couple more years to like really want to dive back into the game.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. And a lot of guys kind of have that answer where they almost need a breather, as we'll call it, right? Just to regroup and try something else. And then when they're ready and they feel more comfortable, they might get back into the game. But I think honestly, you got to, and I think you do, but look at it as a positive. You said early on in the show how it was just to get a scholarship and pro and the NHL wasn't even really a thing. Yeah, of course you wanted to do it, but it wasn't as realistic. So to be able to play 150 games to win a Calder Cup, I mean, not a lot of guys win a championship at any pro level, right? So, and to be a captain in the OHL and to go to the Memorial Cup, I think you've accomplished a lot. So definitely something to be proud of, buddy. We have a lot of, like we said, we've had a lot of Bulls on, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty more. I know I asked you about coming to one of our tournaments in the summer, and it probably can't happen, but we would love to have you sometime. We do want to do some sort of Bulls thing in the future, we'd love to have a few different, generations together from old Belleville Bulls. So we'd love to have you if you could come down sometime. I don't know if that'd be in the next couple of years or whatever, but we definitely would. And I know there's a lot of fans that would love to see you again. And you did make your mark on the Belleville Bulls.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, and if we ever, if you guys ever do find a way to get some sort of Bulls alumni event together, I'll definitely try my best to get up there. I think it would be awesome to see some of the old faces in town and also just connect with some old teammates. And old Trillium Wood there, I remember going up for tournaments in the summer and bringing 15 dozen golf balls and blasting them all over that place. So if we can do that again too, then that'd be great.
That's more than Fleming hits, and you got to see him play.
That place is one of the hardest golf courses I ever played. That place is awesome, but
it is difficult. Trust me, I'm in the hundreds when I go there. I'm not a really good golfer to begin with, but it's a fun little spot. But no, thanks for coming on today. That was awesome. You're one of our best speakers, to be honest. I want to give you that as well. I love the World Junior story, so I think a lot of our followers are going to love that. So, and the honesty and everything that you've said today. So we really, really appreciate it. And like we said, we'd love to have you sometime. And if we can ever figure out an event for the Bulls alumni, we'll definitely be in touch with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for reaching out, guys, and I appreciate what you fellows are doing. So keep up the good work, and hey, maybe we'll do this again in a few months. How's that sound?
You bet, buddy.
Awesome, buddy.
You bet.
All right.
Welcome back, guys. We hope you enjoyed that interview with Eric Tangradi. It was a ton of fun. I know we really enjoyed it. And he's probably one of the best speakers we've had on here as far as, just describing a situation and plays and all that. What do you think, Flem?
I think so too. I think he's probably coming for one of our jobs in the near future, right? So yeah, just the in-depth analysis he could give, I think he's a guy that could really jump into, coaching or pro scouting or something, just a great communicator, right?
Yeah, and he's also a real estate agent down in Pittsburgh now is where he lives. So if you're looking for a house in Pittsburgh, I'm not sure Warner goes there, so get Tangradi in your corner.
But if you're
Sorry,
from
Warner, we had to steal that one, but we thought you might like that. But
if you're from Belleville, give Brad Warner a call. Get Warner in your corner.
Get Warner in your corner, and Belleville, and if you're in Pittsburgh, get Tangradi in your corner. How about that one, guys? But no, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I like I said this before, but just the World Junior stuff and how he talks about how it's 17,000 people going crazy. And then again, his when he said his first, NHL game, I always like to ask guys that, and our next guest too, we're going to ask that as well about his first NHL game. But anyways, no, it's always, interesting. And he talked about the adrenaline, how he slept on like 40, or he only got like 45 minutes sleep, and he just like, he's not riding the high all day. And then I think he says when he gets in his car or something afterwards, he's out, or the bus, or I forget what it was, but just a ton of fun. So thanks a lot for coming on. Another Belleville Bull legend, Belleville Bulls captain, played a pile of games in the NHL. So that was definitely a fun one.
Yep, absolutely. So what do you want to get into here, Brokey? Do you want to chat a little bit about the trade deadline here? I mean, your Senators were kind of busy, nothing huge. The Leafs pulled off one little move too, but is that where you want to go next?
Might as well, right, buddy? We haven't had a chance to chat about this. I know it's a little bit of stale news, but I think we haven't had our opinions and see what happens in the future here. So, I mean, the biggest one, the first one I want to talk about isn't what the Leafs first sends. I want to talk about Florida, just the guys they picked up, Sherratt, right, from Montreal, and Giroux from Philly. I mean, Giroux, the funny thing is that guy was a Philly legend. He played his 1,000th game in Philly, and then his 1,001 was in Florida. So that was kind of neat, right? Just to be, it would have sucked if it was like $9.99 in Philly. I feel like they still would have honored him because he's a big name there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who's a
probably played 100 playoff games too that don't count or something like that,
that's true too. And I don't know why they don't count those, but anyways, he's probably like one of the top biggest names to ever play in Philadelphia, other than maybe some of the high names when they won those cups. But I love the player. I love the style he brings. Just the edge and everything he brings, the leadership. So I think that's a massive. I think it's the best pickup for Florida. They were already stacked in first place in the NHL. I think they're my favorite for the Cup. They really are. It'll be interesting to see how this East plays out. And then of course, Giroux isn't signed next year, and there's a lot of rumors floating around. I heard yesterday that he either bought or built. I can't remember which one it was. It was last night at like 10, 11 p.m. But anyways, he either bought or built a house in Canada, and he's from that area, right? So
well, that's close to Montreal, right? Is that why?
Montreal. It's like 2 hours away from Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to Montreal. He's going to Ottawa. So there's rumors floating around. I'd love to have him because
good. Ottawa
it's a
could use
signing
another.
For one, you don't lose anybody, and two, Ottawa needs that. They need a vet. They keep bringing in for the last 3 years. They bring in these vets, and they're fourth line guys that suck. Like, you want to listen to a guy in the fourth line, you're like, you suck, man. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. I've seen it, right? Like, oh man, yeah, you're gonna tell me what to do.
Ottawa could use another top six forward to play with that little gritty winger they have. So, that would give them 2 top six forwards at least. Give Connor Brown some help.
If you want to talk about Ottawa, you want to talk about the 2020 draft and who's the best player so far in that draft, or one of them. It's definitely not Lafreniere, and it's definitely not Byfield. It might be that third pick. Raymond's also in there too. He's like, I think it might go Stützle and Raymond 1-2 or 2-1, whatever you want to do it. And that's the other thing that's funny is there was a rumor about Lafreniere getting traded. I don't know whether it's true.
I saw that too.
And he hasn't been he's got less than half the production I think Stützle has. Or Stützle. I can't say it wrong. Now again, he's probably not getting as many breaks, but he's also on a better team that scores more. Yeah. So it's catch-22, right? So one thing
I wanted to say about this Giroux thing here before we move on though, Brokey, is I think that kind of highlights the importance of cap space at the deadline, right? Because you can't tell me that there aren't 16 playoff teams that would love to add Claude Giroux to their team, but 14 of them are probably capped out to the absolute max and have no chance, right? So I think, I was kind of thinking about it, and I heard this, like they're thinking about this new Kucherov rule where they're going to make teams be cap compliant come the playoffs. I would like to see the league maybe do something where they give you an extra $1 million or $2 million against the cap only come like the trade deadline or something. Because, man, I just thought the trade deadline was no fun this year. Like, no, to just be like, just shooting you straight. Like, I don't know. Like,
the reason why you want that is because the Leafs are at the fucking cap, buddy. Don't kid yourself.
I want it to be fun. I don't care who gets them. I just want it to be more fun. I was looking forward to today, and I thought it was pretty boring, all things considered. Like, Giroux was the biggest name gone. You didn't see Kessel move. Sherratt moved a few days earlier. Like, there's a lot of things that could happen at the trade deadline, but the cap is just limiting everyone from doing anything, right? So for all the time, like, I bet you if you search YouTube, there's probably 1 million hours worth of content of people talking about trades and trade rumors. And what was there at the end of the day? Like 20, 25 trades throughout the year. Like, there's obviously a gap in that market there. I think the NHL, I don't know what the solution is. They need to get creative and promote a way to have more trade come the trade deadline and throughout the year. I think there's a lot of ways that can make teams better. And, guys are just stuck kind of in the middle now. Like, I don't know. I just don't like it. I think the league needs to think of something. I don't know if it's given an extra $1 million or $2 million come the deadline, but I don't know. I would just like to see more excitement come the trade deadline. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I kind of thought the deadline was a little boring this year, a little flat.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite deadline, no doubt about it. So my question is okay. So I got a few things I want to chat about that now that you said this, but the first one is that the extra $1 million. Let's say you get an extra $1 million. How does that work then? Like, it's done at the end of the year. Let's say the cap's 80 million. Now you get 81. Can anybody use the 81? Like, can Ottawa use it?
Yeah, Ottawa can use it. Every team gets a certain amount, right?
So then what happens at the end of the year? It's just back to 80 or wherever it's supposed to be?
Well, no, what I think the solution would be is in the playoffs, I don't think it matters, but you have to be cap compliant come next year kind of thing. So you can't really go out and trade for a guy with term. Like, you can't go out and trade with a guy that's got, I'm just going to say Jack Eichel, who's making $10 million, because then you can't fit him under your cap next year. But maybe that helps a guy like Phil Kessel get traded. Maybe that helps a few other guys that are on expiring deals. Just ways to bolster a team come playoff time, right? You got to be cap compliant when you come back in the new year. But I just think, and I'm not even saying that's the solution to give him an extra $1 million or $2 million, but I just think the NHL's got to come up with a way to allow teams to be more creative. I mean, right now, it's just kind of stale. Everyone wants trades. It's a huge market. I mean, look at how many people talk about this every day on podcasts. We want trades. We want movement. And for the NHL to have 20 trades over the course of 4 or 5 months, I don't know, seems kind of boring to me. And really, only 2 or 3 are impact deals, right? Like when Tyler Toffoli's the third biggest name of the trade deadline being moved, I think he got a little bit of an issue. And I think, look at all the excitement the NFL's brought in the last couple of weeks. Aaron Rodgers signs a new deal. Russell Wilson gets traded. There's just big name after big name after big name being moved. And that's not happening in NHL. And I think they're missing out on something. Maybe they can drive up, some revenue that way and make the cap go up. I don't know. I think the NHL just needs to be a little more fun and have a little more creativity when it comes to that type of thing.
Well, I think the NFL, I mean, there's probably been some bigger trades, but you're also talking about Tom Brady coming back, which is huge news.
Yeah.
Which all it is a signing.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, all he did was sign. Like, they're not really trades, but I get what you're saying. The other thing to go with that, though, and I think this is the biggest problem is the cap hasn't shifted, right? Because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And I think COVID's definitely hit the NHL way harder than it's hit the NFL. First off, the NFL opened up, went full blown way before. And I don't think, and their TV rights are insane to begin with. They didn't really lose much as far as percentage wise, like NHL. NHL played like 2 years, it seems like. Well, parts of 2 years anyways, with like no fans and well, I guess it would have been almost 2 years, at least here in Canada, right? Because they played the whole last year, then they played the playoffs, and then they played part of this year. So, I mean, that's almost 2 years in Canada. That's a lot, right? So that's a lot of lost revenue. To go with that, the cap isn't moving, and they're talking about it might not move a lot in the future. So I think teams are really like, I think if we didn't have COVID, I think it'd be open. The cap be a little higher. You'd see more moving. So that's one reason. So I think in the future, maybe not next year, but in the next few years, I think you are going to see more trades based on this year, just because there will be a little bit more room. But having said that, it would be fun to have a little bit more, a little bit more leeway, I guess. It's just, how would you do it? The one thing and we talked about this a long time ago, but I think it might even been last year, the Kucherov situation, Vegas is just in deep, deep trouble. Maybe that's a topic we'll talk about here in a minute, like how much trouble they are in with the Dadonov situation. But I mean, yeah, so if these guys are on LTIR and then they kind of hold them off, well, your leg isn't quite ready, even though he's probably ready to go, or whatever the case, right? And then they come in, playoffs, and they can be 40 million over the cap. Who knows what, like, whatever, that'd be insane. But even if they're 5 or 10 million over the cap, like that's, it's just, I mean, life's not fair, but it's not fair. I mean, how can you have a cap? This is what I don't get. How can you have a cap and say this is a hard cap, you can't go over it, blah blah blah, until playoff time, and the most important time of the year is fucking like that. Just doesn't make sense to me. If you got a fucking cap, you got a cap. Why does the playoff change anything? Playoffs means more than the season.
For sure.
So why does the cap not fit into that? It doesn't make sense to me. So get rid of the LTIR bullshit, because or if they come back, they all have to fit under it, the whole playoffs. But maybe give them an extra 2 million.
Or maybe give the teams that aren't in LTIR the extra 2 million. You know what I mean? Like,
something needs to be done. I don't know exactly the formula, but again, something. And then the other thing is, what's your thoughts on Vegas? I don't know the exact numbers, but fuck, they're way over the cap, man. They were over the cap, I think, before, and then they tried to do this Dadonov thing, which I laugh at. If you have any more to speak on that, but I'm just going to talk about the Dadonov thing. So Ottawa signs Dadonov, way overpays, and he gets a 10-team no trade list. So that means every year he has to give them a list of the 10 teams that if they want to trade him, they can't send him to this team. So Vegas obviously wasn't there. So they trade him to Vegas, and then Vegas now tries to trade him 8 months later and trades him to Anaheim, who was on that 10-team list. And Vegas is trying to blame Ottawa. But the thing is apparently this was like news that anybody could have found out. Like, it's on the internet. This is what I've been told. So like any team, any player, like me and you could go search it right now. I didn't, but we could, from what I'm being told, and we could know what the 10 teams are. So how the fuck does Vegas not know? That's what I don't get. And then they're putting me on Ottawa, but you've had them for 8 months. I mean, that's part of the deal. So, I mean, I think this is somebody screwed up in Vegas.
It's just Vegas trying to pull a fast one.
Somebody else.
They're just trying to pull a fast one. They know they're in cap trouble, and they think, we'll try to squeak one through. It didn't work out, right? But hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, by hook or by crook. So it didn't work out. That's the way it is. But yeah, Vegas is in deep trouble now. I've heard they can't bring Alex Martinez off LTIR. Like, he's ready to come back, but they can't bring him off because they don't have the cap room right now. So I don't know how that situation is going to play out. It seems like a mess.
Here's my thoughts. And I know we have a representative. I'm not going to say any names, but we have to watch what we say here, just because there is somebody in Vegas in our hometown. But, and I think I'd always cheer for hometown things and stuff like that. But now that I see the situation, I'm like, you know what? I kind of don't want Vegas to make the playoffs, and I wish there wasn't anybody from our hometown there. But just because of the fact is, like, you guys are playing this system. You're way over the cap. You've screwed yourself. They have. And now, if playoff happens, if they make the playoffs, they can bring everybody back. Like, that is bullshit, because they should have bring them back beforehand, but they can't, because they're like, how does that make any sense? So now, because they're over the cap, they can't bring them back, so they can keep them on LTIR. So then they can bring them back at playoffs. Like, what? Like, there should be some sort of punishment, because if he's healthy and he's ready to come back, how can he stay on LTIR? Doesn't make sense to me. You should be lifted off LTIR, and there should be a penalty. Because you're not injured.
It's obviously a loophole.
Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So who's making these rules up, Gary?
There's clearly a loophole in the system, and people are exploiting it now. You know what I mean? Like, it just they found, like, the first loophole in the cap was they found, like, you can do those 14 or 15-year backdiving deals where, you don't,
right?
a DiPietro kind of deal, right? Where you're bringing salary down.
Paid. He got signed in 2006.
In the end, that ended up causing pain for guys kind of thing, right? Like Shea Weber's in the same situation. Shea Weber got like a 12 or 14 deal.
Oh, that what he signed too?
Yeah, he's got like 4 years left, and like he's borderline retired at this point, right? Like he's pretty much done. Yeah. So that was the first loophole. Then they found this LTIR loophole. So I mean, there's loopholes in the cap. People are going to exploit them. If they're not going to fix them, they need to find a way to make it fair for everyone, which I kind of think, given the teams that aren't in LTIR, an extra $1 million or $2 come trade deadline, maybe that's the way to even it out. I don't know, but it's clearly a gap in the system. It's something they got to renegotiate and fix at the next bargaining session or the next contract. So that's my thoughts.
I think Vegas needs like $6 million. I don't even know what.
Yeah, no, they're in big trouble.
We should look that up because I'm pretty sure Dadnoff makes 4.
Yeah, I think he might make 5 actually.
It might be. It's pretty high. Like
it was a big overpay by Eugene. So.
Oh well, the thing was by Eugene, by Pierre.
By Pierre, yeah.
But what a fuck up that was. I mean, they got rid of they gave him they didn't sign Duclair, who's like one of the top goal scorers, point getters on Florida this year. He's doing awesome. I loved him when he was here, and I know me and my wife watch all the Ottawa games. I thought he was great. He had a bad second half of the season, but in the first half he was an all-star. Yeah. And he only wanted like $3 or $4 million a year, I think, is what he signed for. I don't think he signed for less than that, but he would have taken that. So then you go and you pay an extra $2 million for this Dadnoff guy who didn't turn out even close. But Dadnoff was playing with Huberdeau, right? And lit it up. But I mean, you got to look sometimes who you're playing with, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you throw a guy with McKinnon or Crosby or McDavid. Well, they're going to put some points up.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the overpaid happened, right? And Dadnoff, although Dadnoff did score one famous goal, buddy, down 5-1, 165 in overtime, thanks to Daddy. What a
buddy, that was like a game in October. It's not even a famous game. It's in October. Like it's not even a big game.
Oh, I don't know.
You've been clinging to it for like 2 years.
I was outside fucking naked running around my street. I don't know if it was October. I wasn't quite naked. I might have been in my boxers, but pretty close.
Think of the sponsors, awesome, Brokey. Think of the sponsors, Brokey.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get some underwear sponsors now, buddy.
Yeah, but in other news, the Leafs made a deal. They brought in Mark Giordano from the Seattle Kraken. So that's kind of a deal I've been talking about for a little while. So I think they sent a couple first and a third round pick there for him and a depth guy. Is it the deal the Leafs needed? Probably not. But I mean, is it a way to shore up the blue line? Sure. I mean, I think at this point, I think everyone in Leafland's come to realize like the Leafs are no better than a coin flip in any playoff series against pretty much any team in the East. Are they that much of an underdog? Probably not. But I think, I think the East is such a jumble right now. I don't think the Leafs did enough to improve their chances to win. But I mean, sometimes you roll the dice and that's where you have the Leafs. They probably don't have a goalie. Maybe they have some defensemen to help, but I didn't hate the deal. I think Dubas could have definitely done more on the deadline, but at the same time, you don't want to give up knives for Fleury. So, I mean, I think it is what it is at this point. You went out and got a veteran defenseman. I would have liked to be someone that can play the right side, but it is what it is for this moment. I think we're going to see what the Leafs are made of come playoff time, and can they get past the first round? We'll see.
So my take on that is, what's your thoughts on Dubas? Like, if they don't go past the first round this year, is he fired? I mean, in my opinion, we've been talking about this for like 6 years. Like, I think he should have been fired last year, but again, so now it's like, well, we got this stacked East roster. The East is stacked this year, way more than the West. Did they not make these moves just to keep the future going for another year? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there was so much left on the table there. Like the Leafs, especially goaltending. I mean,
here's my thing about Dubas is he was brought in to manage the cap and bring good guys around. He brought Gilman in, who's probably a future GM. He manages the cap, but Dubas's 2 big swings this offseason were Peter Mrazek and Nick Ritchie, and they both been waived during the course of the year. So for a team that on any given year is right up against the cap, you may have $4 or $5 million to play with. Dubas has brought in like Bunting, that deal worked out. Kasha, that deal worked out. But your 2 big swings, Nick Ritchie and Peter Mrazek, they both flopped. To me, that's an indictment on Dubas and the guys he's picking up. Anyone can go out and find guys, any like you and I watching the hockey, we could go out and find guys for $3 or $4 million to come in and play a backup goalie role. That's all they were looking for, is a guy to play 1B. You went out, you signed the wrong guy. You went out and looked for a guy to play with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Nick Ritchie, and you swung and you missed. He couldn't even play over guys like Wayne Simmons on the 4th line. So to me, this year, you know what? Dubas is obviously a smart guy. He's obviously put together. He speaks well. But I think I'm ready to call time of death on the Kyle Dubas experiment and the Shanahan experiment if they don't get past round one this year. And it's because you botched all the cap space you had. Yeah, you got a good deal with Bunting, but I don't care. The $5 million you spent on Mrazek and Richie, that could have went to someone way better. You could have done something way better at the deadline if you didn't sign those guys, and you botched it. You gave up a pick to get rid of Richie. And to me, that's I'm ready to call time of death on Dubas for those two moves. They didn't work out. And, he's a smart guy. He may be a good GM, but you can't get chance after chance after chance. You're in the biggest hockey market in the world, I would say. And I think it's done. I think he botched this year, and it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I thought it was I thought he should have been fired last year. And I
did too. I said last year should have been fired.
If you're going to fire Dubas, I mean, then you got to fire Shanahan too, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they're attached to the hip at this point. Shanahan has attached his wagon to Dubas.
Yeah, he's the one that's brought him in. So he could have brought in Mark there, but he didn't. They went with a young guy. They went with a numbers guy, and it's not worked out. So the thing is, it's like, if I'm a Leaf fan, I'm like, you played Montreal last year, and yeah, Carey Price won them all these rounds and everything. But you had the best chance. You're up 3-1. I mean, you think this year's going to be easy? That was your easiest chance. This year's going to be hard as hell. I mean, you get up 3-1 again. You're not even, like, you're playing Florida. You're probably not going to play Florida.
Brokey, they lost to Montreal, and Jack Campbell had a better save percentage than Carey Price, and they still lost. So it's the system. It's the system and the players.
Yeah, they're probably not going to play Montreal. Or sorry, they're not going to play Montreal. They're out officially. Actually, they're not going to play Florida. I think Florida's probably going to get first, and they'd have to get eighth, which I don't see. So they're probably going to play. There's a chance they could play Carolina, and I like Carolina's team. They might be the easiest though. Then they got Boston, which the history behind that. And then Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. So Tampa Bay's won the cup last year.
Carolina can only play in the crossover.
Yeah, but if they finish seventh, which could still happen, it's right tight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's sitting there right now, I think, is the last I checked. But
Tampa Bay's in a wild card spot right now.
Yeah, but they have a game in hand, I think, on Boston. So it's right tight between those two. And then Toronto's only a couple points up. So, I mean, it all depends. There's still 15, 17 games up to it.
So would you say Toronto's better than a coin flip against any team? Just like even the Rangers, Washington, Pittsburgh, if they get Boston or Tampa, are they any better than a coin flip at best against any of those teams? I would say not. Maybe if you play the Rangers, maybe you're 55% to win. But I mean, I don't think you're any better than I don't think you're any better than 50-50 at best case scenario.
But they're not playing the Rangers.
No,
that ain't happening. And Carolina, I think Carolina, I don't know. I just feel like they could be a sleeper this year. Tampa Bay, we know Tampa Bay. There's no point talking about them. And Boston, they just can't. I think their best bet would probably be their best bet might be to play Boston in the first round.
And Boston's better than they were when the Leafs were losing to them. Like, they got Taylor Hall now.
But just to get over that hump, sometimes like the Washington Pittsburgh thing.
If I could take anyone, I would take Boston in a heartbeat over Tampa Bay or Florida even, I think, that's my opinion, but.
Well, Tampa is going to be coming hot. It's going to be fun to watch.
Tampa Bay is the team I do not want to play. Like, you have a Norris caliber defenseman in Victor Hedman. You got the best goalie in the world in Vasilevsky. You got Stamkos. You got Point. You got all these grinders like Cirelli and that's Kucherov. That's a team I'm not looking forward to playing at any. McDonough, not happening. Like, hopefully someone upsets Tampa. Before that happens.
Because it sounds like it's probably going to be between three teams, right? Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Boston. So your pick's Boston out of the three?
Yeah, I would take Boston. That'd probably be my best pick. Yeah.
Over Carolina even. What's the thing Carolina does? Shit, I lost the word. The shoot or what's the name of it? They do the celebration.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called after.
We gotta figure that out. That's fun. I can't. I have it on the tip of my tongue. I can see it like a photo or a video. I love that where they fucking win and then they do the circle and they do they still do that, right?
They still do that. Yeah, bunch of jerks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I forget the name of it, but anyways, that'd be fun to watch them do that. Well, I guess they only do it at home though, right?
No, I would. You know what? I think for the Leafs, I think Boston's probably the better matchup. I mean, Bergeron's getting up there. They don't have a stud goalie necessarily anymore. Chara's not there. I think Boston's the team the Leafs maybe could shut down. And I think it's a big psychological thing for them too. I think a win against Boston does so much more for them than a win against Carolina.
My thoughts were.
So I'm not saying flip a coin between Boston and Carolina. You don't want to play either of them. If you make me choose, I'll take Boston. I'll roll the dice on that one.
Sounds like we're gonna have some fun bets, and I might make some cash on this one, eh, Flum?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, that sounds like it was a pretty good episode today, buddy. We have some amazing stuff in store for our next episode. Let me tell you, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but we do plan to have another interviewer, and it could be one of our, if not our biggest yet. But let's leave it at that. But we will have some amazing news coming next Monday. We will have a launch of a couple more tournaments and more information on that. So it's for Pay It Forward Sports. And we will be less than a week away from our following tournament, which is just less than 2 weeks away right now, for our Kings of 4 and 4 championship. So if you're looking to get a team in, get a hold of us ASAP. We are still accepting, and we will still accept teams up until about a week before. So you got about a week to get in. So get in, guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. And if you got like half a team, you get a hold of us. We might be able to fill some spots for you because we've got a couple of guys with a couple of, partial teams. So we might be able to put them together, and who knows, maybe you guys win the championship.
Yep. So if you want to become a champion, become the Kings of Vegas, come on our 4-on-4 tournament, April 8th to 10th. And if you're looking to see the best team in hockey, the Toronto Maple Leafs take out the Ottawa Senators. We got a bus trip April 16th. We'll be leaving Belleville around 3 p.m. And we will see the Leafs absolutely steamroll the Ottawa Senators. But that's it. You got something, Brokey?
Yeah, I just want to say we got two big we're taping this on Saturday, so let's have some fun, Fleming. I'll take Montreal tonight, and then I'm going to take Calgary for $10 a piece. You get Edmonton and Toronto.
You got a deal, buddy.
But how many? I want to take Ottawa, but I got to get some odds. What are my odds? Ottawa plays Florida.
We'll talk later.
Do I get 20-1 or what?
Yeah.
What? Okay,
we'll
straight up bet. Florida's got to win by 3. Deal?
No. You're giving me odds
What?
on
You're
that
giving
one.
me 2.5.
No.
What if two? Okay, 2's a tiebreaker.
No. We'll talk later.
What do you mean we'll talk later?
We'll talk later.
I gotta get this on. We gotta get some bets on. So are those 2 bets locked in?
Those first 2 are locked in. Yeah, for sure.
I honestly Montreal's been playing. Okay, you don't want to give me some odds on Ottawa? They're playing the best team in the league. They're literally the last place team.
I don't want to invest in the Ottawa game. Fuck, just I'm sick of them. Don't want to have them to watch.
You're afraid they're gonna win.
So I'll take Florida by 2 at an even bet, but I win if Florida wins by 2. That's the money. That's the puck line.
Oh, so that's a 1.5, not an even 2.
No,
an even 2 would be
1.5, just like every sports book in the world it does. 1.5. Yes, that's what I'll give you.
So Florida's got to win by 2. I feel like my odds are way against me today. Oh, okay. We'll do it. Sure.
All right, we'll lock it in. Perfect. There we go. So we got 3 bets on the go. 3. Okay.
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's the Macho Man.
I just want to say thanks again to Eric Tangradi for coming on to the show today. We had tons of fun. It was a great time talking to Grady. And thanks to our partner, Brad Warner from Royal LePage, the best real estate agent in the area. So, guys, if you're looking to buy or sell this spring or summer, give Brad Warner a call. He's truly the best realtor in town, and he will get you the best deal on your property. So thanks a lot to Warner. Get Warner in your corner.